Hey, what's up everyone? This is Silver Slayer. Thank you for tuning into this video. A lot of people wonder what silver's natural price should be. This video is going to explain why silver should be $100. Just off bat, the gold to silver ratio in the 30s went from 16 to 1 to 75 to 1. If the ratio was still 16 to 1 with gold at $1,500, if you divide $1,500 or 1,500 divided by 16, it's $93. So when FDR changed the gold to silver ratio overnight, when he did this from 16 to 1 to 75 to 1, manipulating it using the power at bay to control and screw silver's price or undervalue it, extremely undervalue it, this puts silver at a very large setback, and it hasn't recovered. We've seen it, come to $50 twice in the last 30 years. In the 80s and in 2011, silver was $50, which a lot of people don't remember actually. But the thing is that silver definitely can get to this point again, but what is it going to take? And that's what we're going to talk about in this video. So before we start, make sure to smash that like button. Make sure you subscribe if you're new, because I do post daily videos. I posted another video today I know you guys will enjoy. So let's jump into this. So in 2011, when silver hit $50, what was happening? Because if we can go back in history and see what was happening, we can see patterns and try to set that or correspond or correlate that with today's economy and what's happening. So a couple of things were happening. One was recession looming, all that stuff with the dollar deflating, people were in a recessive state. Two, stock markets were at extreme volatility rates. I mean, stock markets were basically down to very low degrees, and people were looking for a safe haven alternative. And I say alternative because it is an alternative to the dollar when times are in crisis. When people don't trust the governments, when people don't trust the banking systems, they turn towards precious metals as a safe haven asset, because it is a way to kind of transfer your wealth, preserve your wealth against the deflating dollar. And that's a whole different topic for a whole nother video, but that is the case of, that's some context behind of why that happens. So today, in today's society, definitely a recession is definitely looming. Stock markets are extremely volatile, setting record-breaking highs, then dropping down. So we have that aspect with it. The dollar is definitely not gaining any traction. I'm not talking about the dollar index. I'm talking about the overall financial situation of our nation, of not even just our nation, but on a global standard. I mean, we're $23 trillion in debt. We're trying to lower interest rates. We're trying to figure out this perfect formula. President Trump saying he needs to lower the dollar index. U.S.-China trade wars, are still going back and forth. Trump's impeachment. Saudi Arabian oil fields getting attacked earlier this year, and then it's going to take longer to get installed. So many different things. There's so many different things. The Hong Kong protests, the FOMC cutting interest rates to what degree. There's so many things that could put people in a panic-like state and not want them to really be a part of this and be a part of this system. And to do that, gold and silver is the alternative. Why I bring back that word alternative, because there is no solution. There's only alternatives. All we can do is try to invest wisely around the bush. You can't you have to use fiat currency in your day-to-day life to survive for food, water, and shelter, but you can preserve some of your money, and that's the way to do it, and that's why a lot of us people do that. So, a lot of people ask why silver is so bullish, or why people are so bullish with silver. It's because it's undervalued. When I mentioned the gold to silver ratio going from 16 to 1 to 75 to 1, that was not even the earliest time of silver being manipulated or being pushed undervalued from man-made. If it's silver's natural price could rise with gold, we would see $100 silver right now, but that's not the case. We've seen it with FDR in the 30s. We've also seen it before that with the Egyptians, when it used to be 1 part silver equals 1 part gold. So you could trade a gold coin for a silver coin because it was interchangeable, because they were both just as valuable. Gold was a little more rare. It comes out of the ground 8 to 1. But back then they saw silver as magical. It could purify water. Silver is the most highly conductive metal for thermal conductivity and electricity, and people use it for a vast variety of things. So silver is definitely a very needed asset. So with that said, Even though it comes out of the ground 8 to 1 compared to gold, we've seen silver supply vanishing, so it's actually much smaller than that. Now, it used to be 1 part silver equals 1 part gold, but then it went from 2.5 parts silver equals 1 part gold, and that was in the Egyptian times, biblical times. So that was the first instance we've seen silver was actually the ratio was actually screwed, messed with. And ever since then, it was around 8 to 1, 16 to 1, which is still okay because it comes out of the ground roughly that. So that's a fair natural ratio for it to be. But when FDR did that, he put silver at a very, very, very bad state, and this is undervalued, and it hasn't recovered. So for silver to naturally go back down, this means that silver has to start outperforming gold. But for silver to outperform gold, a number of things are going to have to happen. This means that, let's say the ratio is 16 to, no, let's say the ratio is 50 to 1. So right now it's at around 85 to 1. We saw it as high as 95 to 1. But for it to get back down to, 60 to 1, silver either has to appreciate or gold has to depreciate. And more than likely, silver is going to be the one appreciating. Just like when the ratio went down to those very low numbers in 2011, it wasn't gold devaluing itself, it was silver appreciating up to gold. So silver has a better opportunity to rise in price than gold does. So silver is definitely a smarter investment. When I made a video a couple days ago talking about, even in Wall Street, even stock market brokers, everyone is saying that silver out of all the metals has the most opportunity to appreciate, and it's for these reasons. Also, a couple other reasons we're going to talk about as well. So supply and demand, we know, is the main thing to shoot a price up. We know that low supply, high demand, that shoots a price up because that's trading. That's how monopoly works. But what if I told you that in the last 7 years we've been abandoning silver mines and cutting back production? And silver is actually extremely hard to find out of ground. So not only have we been cutting back the production of silver by the hundreds of millions of ounces, the top 3 silver producers, Mexico, Peru, and Chile, have been abandoning silver mines because gold, lead, and zinc are more profitable. So, with that said, this means that not only are we 7 years behind, we also have to catch up. So we're basically about 14 years behind on silver production. But what happens when the demand of silver starts rising, especially in 2020, with all these things about going to be happening, the 2020 presidential election, stock markets, all this stuff, interest rates, even the just recession itself. So when the demand starts rising and the supply cannot meet that, this is when silver's price is really going to take off. So $100 silver is definitely not out of the ordinary. It's not out the realm of impossibility. It's actually extremely possible. Now, when it was $50, a lot of people during that era, I made a couple videos on my main channel when I was reading some comments from people on articles written during that time period, and most people thought that silver was going to keep going higher. They did not know that there was going to be a huge crash. But if I was investing back then, it would have been blatantly obvious because it rose so fast. So I hope that when it does get $100, it's more of a gradual approach. A time frame would be in the next five to 10 years for me, and that's being realistic. I'm not going to say $100 overnight. Don't be misled by silver pumpers, people that try to say this just to get views and get traction flowing, because that's misleading an audience. And then if you come into the market, you can have a quick resentment because you have high expectations, unrealistic expectations on a market that just does not perform like that. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you silver is going to be $100 in 2020. It could appreciate, and it's not impossible, but it's not likely in my eyes. Now, another thing I want to talk about is if silver gets $100, who's going to buy it? Well, a lot of people. You probably will yourself. Look, when Bitcoin was $20,000, most people were still buying it. And that's because when it's $100, that's when all the articles are going to be written about it. That's when everyone's talking about it. It's all over news, all over media, YouTube videos. Everyone's talking about it, and that's when all the traction happens. That's when the momentum starts pushing it, and you think it's going to keep going higher. So then you're going to start buying it thinking it's going to get to $200. So you have to buy in at 100 so you can sell at 200 or whatever the case is. You need to be careful with that though, because panic selling and impulse buying is something I've talked about heavily in the past, because it is a very, very, very easy way to make mistakes. A lot of emotional attachments involved, and that's when you can definitely let your guard down and get a little greedy. So be careful with that. Try to reflect upon it. But I don't know. I just wanted to make this video because it definitely is. It's definitely important to talk about. It's definitely a possibility, and you need to be prepared. So if it or when it does happen, you can capitalize off of it and make the best. Make the best choices, whether you're buying, selling, holding, or trading. So, anyways, I'm gonna wrap this video up here. Hope you guys did enjoy this video. If you did, make sure to smash the like button. Hopefully, I brought up some good topics to get the mind rolling, get the ball rolling a little bit, and so you can reflect upon your stacking strategies and what works best for you. So, anyways, thanks for tuning in. This was Silver Slayer. I'll see you guys soon. Peace.